This man was employed by the US government to work on their Cold War espionage program. He spied on missile silos, nuclear submarines, and tanks on secret military exercises. All were to be found thousands of miles away behind the Iron Curtain, but he saw them from his home in Virginia. Joe McMoneagle was a US Army intelligence officer who saw active service in Vietnam. In 1970, he fell seriously ill and almost died. When he recovered, he found he had psychic powers. McMoneagle was soon working with other psychics for the CIA.
We were mostly concerned with targeting the Soviet Union, the PRC, China, some of our other enemies, Libya, Iran, Iraq.
The CIA psychic spy program was called Project Stargate. It was based at SRI, the Stanford Research Institute. The project leader was senior research physicist Ed May. It was May's long-term study of psychics like Joe McMoneagle which had originally prompted the call from the CIA.
So they asked the California psychics at SRI, can you tell us what's happening there? And with mixed results, nonetheless, there was enough information that convinced the CIA this is worth investigating in a serious way.
We set up our own test of Joe McMoneagle's remarkable claims with a simple experiment. At an agreed time from his home in Virginia, McMoneagle would attempt to remotely view a secret location we chose halfway across the world. McMoneagle's task? To pinpoint where this man was at a given time somewhere in Europe. The target location was unknown to McMoneagle or anyone connected with him. All he had to go on was a photograph of the man and his own psychic vision. McMoneagle picks up mental fragments of information, sight, sounds, even smells. He begins sketching.
Well, first thing I'm getting is sort of a I'm getting a sense of some kind of an overhang kind of a thing like this. And I get an impression of a very large overhang. There might be sun through a skylight. Lots of glass and light, shadow inside. And it probably is adjacent to either a subway stop or some kind of a train station. Within this complex is probably a chapel, maybe, or a small church within the complex itself, and engine noises that aren't cars.
McMoneagle got many elements of the location right. It was the ultra-modern Stansted Airport near London, England. But in spite of drawing something very like a jet engine, Joe didn't get the airplanes. Not a conclusive experiment, but enough to make you wonder.
No, not under 100. Hey, come on, above 100.
This woman is no latter-day Carrie, but she may have psychic powers. She's one of a group of volunteers taking part in a bizarre experiment. What these volunteers are doing is searching for the secret of mind over matter.
They speak of being on the same wavelength or being in tune with the machine. They draw analogies between how it might feel to play a musical instrument or to drive a car, where the machine and the human become a single operating system.
So what are the volunteers doing? It's simple. They're trying to make a computer generate numbers above or below 100 by willpower alone.
It's as if you flipped 200 coins. On average, you should get 100 heads. But sometimes you'll get a 92, sometimes you'll get 103. But as you generate more and more of these trials, the average should come closer to 100. So what these people are doing is they're sitting there observing these numbers coming up, and they're trying to get more heads or more tails, depending on their pre-recorded intention.
The experiment is based here at Princeton, but intriguingly, it could be anywhere, for the powers displayed have no range limit.
We did carry out experiments where we put the person in the next room, we put them down the hall, we had them down the block, and ultimately we had them around the world. And we saw no difference in the effects than what we saw when the operator was sitting right there. It doesn't seem to matter whether the operator is 3 feet from the machine or 5,000 miles away. The effects look very much the same.
Princeton's Engineering Anomalies Research Lab has run millions of the random number trials. They have found that human beings can influence the machines with their willpower alone, according to eminent physics professor Bob Jahn.
There is no doubt that we are seeing a small but statistically consistent effect of the influence of human operators' intention on the performance of these simple devices.
It seems incredible, but mind control over another person's body has actually been achieved at this lab in Nevada.
We designed a series of experiments to look at the possibility that consciousness may be able to, in some way, reach out and cause changes in the physical condition of people.
On a random basis, one volunteer is told when to influence the heart rate of another volunteer and when to stop. The results are startling.
What we're finding is that during the treatment periods, that things like autonomic nervous system activity generally, specifically galvanic skin response, heart rate, muscle tension, are reduced as compared to the control periods where people are functioning at their normal physiological rate.
The implications are awesome. We're looking at the chance of healing the human body by willpower alone. Thousands of such trials have taken place. The effects are small, so are they significant?
It's exceedingly unlikely that these results are due to chance. We're finding that across the experiments, we're talking about odds of about 1 in a million that these things occurred on the basis of chance.
In this experiment at the University of Nevada, volunteers were wired up and shown a random series of images. Some were neutral, some were highly disturbing. The aim? To provoke a physical response. True to form, the electrodes picked up a nervous reaction to the shocking pictures. But the shock was registered a few seconds before the offensive images came on screen. Psychologist Dean Radin.
Here's the response to the calm pictures. It's flat, meaning there was no response, and that's what you would expect. Here we're looking at the response before the emotional pictures, and we see this unexpected rise in emotion only before the emotional pictures. And what that implies is that somehow the person knew in this range where the target wasn't even selected yet, they knew what they were about to see. Somehow in this 5-second period, a piece of this person's own emotional future became known to them.
The experiment is entirely random. Volunteers have no way of knowing which image is coming up. It's as if the body had a secret way of peering into the future and warning the heart and nerves that something shocking is on the way.